So let's get started on the overall setup here. I've got everything laid out, almost everything laid out that we're going to be using. I want to start by explaining the different pieces and where they're going to fit and show you the cords that they're connected to. So this OBD2 port is going to plug in at your left knee in your vehicle, and it's got an RJ45 plug plugged into it. Now, this is not a traditional Ethernet port, but it's using the Ethernet jack, and you can see that there are 5 pins for this connection. Some of these pins are actually delivering power, and so you're going to see that this goes through the Ethernet looking cord all the way until it gets to the first block of your Panda, this block here. So this block has inside of it the connection to the power, and it also interfaces directly with your vehicle. So you can see these 2 pins here. This is where we're going to plug it into our car. In this case, this is the pin for a Toyota RAV4. And we're going to unplug 1 pin from the vehicle, plug it into here, and then plug this back into the vehicle. So this has the pass-through to pass all of the information directly back to your vehicle. And the output of this is something that looks like a USB-C connection. You can see it here. It uses a USB-C type cable, but it's not USB-C because it has additional power that's a part of it. So that cable comes out and then plugs into this, which is the Panda Black. So this is the car harness adapter that allows you to not have to have one of the Panda giraffes. And then this Black Panda here handles all of the data acquisition. You can see there's no ports on this side. Buried inside of here is a GPS receiver and all kinds of other details. And we're going to make some modifications right here to the Black Panda so that we don't pass power on to the Raspberry Pi, which is not expecting it. I've introduced a few more pieces of hardware here. You can see here my Raspberry Pi with its power cable connected, and this is the USB A to A cable here, this white cable. Now this cable, if you follow it all the way around to the other end, I'm going to make some modifications to it in just a few moments. And the modifications are going to be inside the cable point here. You can probably see here the 4 silver pins that indicate where information or power can travel. And the one that's on this side delivers power. We want to cover up that cable, and the reason why it's covered on the website, but it's because the Raspberry Pi is already getting power. It's getting power from here. And because of the way the Raspberry Pi is built, we do not want to deliver power through the USB that's going to power the Raspberry Pi like it would perhaps some other kind of device like a cell phone. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cover up the power delivery to the USB. Otherwise, we're going to end up with some strange situations in the Pi. If you ever were to plug, by the way, a USB A to A cable in to the Panda Black and then plug it into your laptop, then you would be in the hunt for a new laptop. At least a new laptop motherboard, because it'll fry your motherboard. So please pay careful attention to this and make sure that you've modified your cable before you plug everything in. So what we're going to do next, you can see I have here a piece of Scotch moving tape. This is the tape that I'm going to use to try to cover up the pin. And I've just sliced a pretty thin piece of it here. I'm going to pull that off. I'm not sure how easy this is to see from where you are. And what I'm going to be doing is trying to slide it in directly on top of the pin here. So my hands are going to get in the way of the camera for just a second. I'll try to get it all the way in, covering up that pin. And as soon as I get it all the way in, I'm just going to push down on it right there so you can see it kind of hanging down. My hope is to keep this kind of straight up inside there so that when I'm going to plug this into a USB port in just a second, and it should flatten that down and cover up the pin all the way, but not cover the pin next to it. So what I'm going to try next is to plug this into my Raspberry Pi, or actually I can plug it into the Black Panda here. This is what it's going to be plugging into anyway, so I'm going to align these 2 pieces so that I can just turn this over and plug it in. And again, it's going to show you here. I'm going to plug that in just like this. And now when I unplug it, we should see that the tape is adhered to the outside here. And on the inside, the tape should be covering up the pin. If I look carefully at it here, I'm going to take it out of frame so I can just see it very closely. Looks like it did a pretty good job, but didn't cover it up all the way. There's just a little bit here on the edge that might still be exposing the power pin. So I'm going to try this one more time, and we're going to see whether I'm able to do it then. I tried just sticking the same one there, but it didn't adhere very well. So I'm going to cut another piece that's almost exactly the same length as this piece. And we're going to try it one more time. I might just make it just a little bit wider this time. So it looks like this is right around probably 1.5 centimeters long, give or take. So we've got that piece on, and now we're going to slide it on here. It's kind of tricky to do this part because we want it to be long enough that it will cover all the pin all the way back. But if we make it too long, or too wide, then we're going to have trouble either adhering it or confirming that it's not covering the pin next door. So I'm going to slide this all the way back, I hope. And now I've got a piece that should be fairly well aligned. We're going to take the Black Panda, push it on there, and pull it apart. And now we're going to check one more time to see if it's fully adhered. And I think it is. So we should see now that it's covering up the pin. There's no danger at this point of it sticking into a neighboring pin and obscuring that. And also we've got full coverage of the USB power, which means that we're going to be able to keep this plugged into the Black Panda and not have to worry about whether or not it's going to fry our Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to plug this in forever, and then I'm not taking this out anymore. I don't want to worry about whether the connection's good or connection's bad. An alternative that you can use is you can actually open this up and break the solder, but I'm going to try this first to just make sure that I can get some data with it. So I think our next step is to now examine that we've got this USB-A cable. This comes all the way through and connects to our Raspberry Pi here. So our next step is going to be that we're going to take the Pi, run out to the car, plug it all in to the various connections, and then we're going to be set to do a test drive.